when a member of Al-Qaeda or a similar associated terrorist group is captured, I want that person to be terrified about what's going to happen to them in American custody. I want them not to know what's going to happen. I want the terror that they inflict on others to be felt by them as a result of the uncertainty of not knowing that they can look on the internet and find exactly what our interrogators are going to be limited to.
So developing a classified annex of lawful techniques for intelligence professionals who are interrogating the worst terrorists would make it harder for terrorists to train to avoid and resist interrogation. The key to our amendment is giving this limited group of intelligence community interrogators the techniques they need to gather information.
I hope this amendment will facilitate a return to a kind of sensible middle ground on which we will not be shackling our interrogators as they try to get intelligence.
As a matter of common sense, this amendment should go forward, because the reality is that to tell our enemies online what to expect just defies common sense, and that's really what we're doing with this amendment.
It seems so unacceptable that we're basically telegraphing to our enemy exactly what the range of tactics we will use against them as part of the interrogation.
As I understand it, the reason you're having to do this is because the President Obama, by executive order, prevented the CIA and other agencies from using any enhanced interrogation techniques that have been classified in the past. Is that correct?
That's right, Senator Graham, and unfortunately, we're just telegraphing to our enemies techniques we're going to use.
If I may, when the President said that no interrogation technique is available to our intelligence community other than the Army Field Manual, do you agree for the first time in American history, we're advertising to our enemies what we can do to you if we capture you, and no more can be done?
I would say, Senator Graham, that's absolutely right. That's why I appreciate that you've sponsored this amendment, that Senator Lieberman, I appreciate his leadership, and I have to say, while we're in this colloquy, Senator Lieberman's also been a mentor to me in the Senate, and I appreciate that with his leadership on these issues. But it really comes down to that, to not telegraphing, not advertising to our enemies what techniques our professionals, and this amendment is limited to the group of professionals that is going to focus on these issues, that will be gathering intelligence from terrorists. And we've got to protect our country, so why we would do this, it just doesn't make sense.
To my good friend from Connecticut, there's a proposal pending on the floor of the United States Senate that would say, for the first time in American history, that if a United States citizen decides to collaborate with the enemy, they cannot be held as an enemy combatant. I think you're very familiar with the history of the law in this area. The law of the land is that if you choose to help Al-Qaeda, you've committed an act of war against your fellow citizens, and you can be held as an enemy combatant for an indeterminate period of time, so we can gather intelligence about what you may have done or about what you know about the enemy.
The great concern that we have now in terms of the security of the homeland is from so-called homegrown terrorists, radicalized Americans. So these people, in my opinion, have taken sides. They've joined the enemy. And to have this body at this time, as the threat of homegrown terrorism rises, say no, they can't be treated as enemy combatants, is not only doesn't make sense, and is totally unresponsive to the facts that I've just described. The fact is that it's also dangerous.